Welcome back. Recognizing the China Communist Party threat, Alabama Senator Tommy Tuberville introducing new legislation that would ban the thrift savings plan from investing in companies that are tied to the military in China. The senator writing an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal today saying this: the American people recognize the economic and military threat that China poses to the United States. Prohibiting the TSP, the Thrift Savings Plan Investment in China Act, would advance our national security interests and restrict funds from flowing to firms beholden to China's communist regime. Joining me right now is the Alabama senator. He is member of the Senate Armed Services and Foreign Affairs Committees, Tommy Tuberville. Senator, it's great to have you this morning. Thanks very much for being here. I know that President Trump tried to do this, tried to put rules around investing in any company that was tied to the military. Can you walk us through the legislation that you are introducing today?
Well, you're exactly right, Maria, and you know more about this as anybody because you were on top of it. I can remember back in 2017, you talked a lot about this, and President Trump, there's a board of 5 people that control the pension fund. Now, this pension fund is government workers, federal workers, such as Congress, myself, and all of our military, $700 billion. And we don't want to invest that money in Chinese companies to prop up the Chinese. And so what we want to do is put this legislation through to tell this 5-member board, hey, invest money, make money for our military and our government workers, but do not invest it in China. They don't go by the rules. They break corporate espionage rules every day. They don't go by the sanctions that we put on as the United States, and they never go by their balance sheets. I mean, they're always off. So what we want to do is make sure that we don't prop up the military of the Chinese, nor their political and religious persecution. We want to go with companies that are going to go by the rules, fight for democracy, and at the end of the day, this legislation pretty much says this is a message that sends zero tolerance to the Chinese to block their aggression towards the United States and the rest of the world.
Well, I mean, when I first learned that there were hundreds of millions of dollars being targeted and invested in companies that were pretty much working to overtake the United States as the #1 superpower, and the thrift fund is the investment and the 401k, if you will, of military people in the United States, I was just astounded that this was allowed. But how do you make the case to CEOs and multinational companies out there that are saying, look, there's 1.4 billion people in China. There's a growth story from an investment standpoint. I want to invest in growth, and I'm going to put my money where I believe we will see growth overall. So how do you make the case to those people?
Well, 5 years ago, Maria, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation. But the Chinese have gotten very aggressive. They're doing things all around China, Hong Kong, threatening Taiwan, threatening fishing boats all up and down the Taiwan Straits. They're getting very aggressive towards this country. Their military is growing leaps and bounds. Their economy is shooting above ours. And they want to be the top dog in the world. And they're headed that direction. Why would we help the Chinese and their Communist Party achieve that goal? We don't need to help. There's other companies that we can get involved in this country that we could grow our portfolio with our savings plan, our pension plan, and do the right thing. But we do not need to invest in the Chinese government.
Yeah, I mean, right now, this morning, there is a story that we were covering all morning that Taiwan has closed its consulate in Hong Kong. I'm sorry, Hong Kong has closed the Taiwan embassy in Hong Kong. I mean, that tells you right there who's running the show in Hong Kong if they're closing the Taiwan office in Hong Kong. And there's been no accountability whatsoever for the fact that the CCP has gone into Hong Kong and taken it over 25 years early.
Well, I'm on the Armed Services Committee, as you said earlier, and we bring in all the commanders from all over the world, the combatant commanders, and the Indo-Pacific commander that's over all of pretty much Asia and the Taiwan Straits and all. He basically said in 4, 5, 6 years, we look and probably expect confrontation with Taiwan. We can't afford that to happen. Taiwan's a democracy. They've stood with us. We need to stand with Taiwan. This will be an interesting stair step of going through a progression in the next few years to see where China goes.
Do you feel like the corporate sector needs an education on this, Senator? Because, look, all of this that's happened with the Chinese Communist Party, and I want to be clear, this is not about the Chinese people. This is about the CCP, who has a stated goal of taking over the #1 superpower spot, overtaking the United States. But for some reason, the corporate sector has not gotten the memo. We continue to see big businesses want to go set up shop in China, even though we're watching, we're watching, for example, what's gone on with the Ant Group and Jack Ma. He was disappeared for 2 months after he said a negative thing about the CCP and how they want to control the financial services industry. I mean, are American companies blinded in thinking that they're going to actually run their own businesses if they're set up in China?
I can understand that the companies in the United States are trying to make money. We don't need to make it on the backs of slave labor, the Uyghurs over in China that are absolutely treated atrociously. But we've got a lot of our companies in this country that are overlooking that, and that's wrong. We talk about human relations here in the United States. How about China? Let's hold them accountable. And if we don't hold them accountable, it's going to get worse and worse. And they're going to keep building that portfolio for their military, and we're going to have huge problems.
All right. So your legislation prohibits investing in these companies, the thrift savings fund, from investing in these companies. Are you looking for other 401ks, government-related 401ks, to also not invest in those companies? And do you expect we are going to see this accountability from the Biden administration? I mean, let's face it, Senator, Joe Biden has not even brought up the origins of the coronavirus to Xi Jinping. It never came up when he spoke with him. It also never came up in the Alaska meeting? Really?
That's embarrassing. We got to hold them accountable. Now, private companies, something has to be done with that. But the one thing that can't be done is we can't raise the corporate income tax. If we raise that, surely we're going to lose them to other countries, not just China. But we've got to take care of our own companies in the United States. We got to keep their headquarters here. We can't use the inversion process. We've got to keep them here. We got to make sure we take care of them. But we can't tax them to death, because if we do, they're going to leave. And you can't blame them. But we can't put laws on private companies. We just need to let them understand what they're doing, how it's going to affect them in the future. The bottom line today might not be the bottom line tomorrow in some of these corporations if we continue to invest in China.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned inversions. I mention this a lot, and of course, that's what happened on the Obama administration. We had a ton of inversions when Ireland had a 9% corporate rate and the U.S. was at 35. U.S. companies, they took their headquarters to Ireland, and they claimed a 9% corporate rate. Done. Tommy Tuberville, thanks for your work. We'll keep following this. Thanks so much, Senator.
Thank you.